Christopher, have you read N.T. Wright's book, Simply Christian?
No, I've not.
You know, even before you read mine.
Sounds like a very sickly title, I must say.
Well, it's
like
okay.
Mere Christianity. I hate that sort of pseudo-modesty that Christians have.
I appreciate that. You may not like the book, but it would be helpful in a couple of ways, because I think it would help you to get what Christians believe to be the larger purpose and story, and it might also help to explain why there is this yearning in us for God, because we happen to believe God put it there.
We'll be right back. The Great God Debate continues. Mark Roberts and Christopher Hitchens when we return to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on the Great God Debate Day. Dr. Mark Roberts, author of Can the Gospels Be Trusted? Many other books, and Christopher Hitchens, author of God is Not Grace, My Guess. God is Not Great. I want to go now to the anthropic principle, because a number of people asked me to bring this up in the course of preparing for this. Mark Daniels wrote, "It requires greater blind faith to believe that the universe has just happened into existence than to believe in an intelligent being created it." I was written to about Robert Roode and James Trethel, astronomers who believe that when you look at the 20 unique characteristics of the globe, that it could only have been fulfilled in, actually it should never have happened, even in the trillion universes and the 100 billion stars in each of them, so magnificent is the creation and so delicately balanced. And I go to the Bill Bryson book, A Short History of Nearly Everything, that when you're done reading brief cosmological history, Christopher Hitchens, it really does take an extraordinary amount of indifference to accident to come to the conclusion that we're just here because of an accident.
Well, it doesn't involve believing just in an accident. I mean, there was an extraordinary event that brought the universe into being, which the word Big Bang, originally invented by Professor Fred Hoyle, was originally designed to scorn that idea, to make it sound silly, but in fact it's now pretty much accepted. I just have to refer you again, I think, to Victor Stenger's book, which has a much closer engagement than mine does with the sciences. It seems to me, though, that the really unbelievable thing, the thing that cannot be believed, is that we, on this very tiny speck of the planet in a solar system that has otherwise only dead planets, and the death of which we can anticipate almost to the hour, the heat death of our known universe, that's on the very, very edge of a whirling, unimaginable space of other galaxies, that we are the point of all this creation. It's just not possible for me, at any rate, to believe that.
Mark Roberts, when my correspondents point out that the Earth being fit for habitat requires the number of stars in the planetary system, the parent star birth date, the parent star age, the parent star distance, the parent star mass, surface gravity, axial tilt, all these different things, does that increase or decrease your belief?
Well, to the extent that I understand it, and I need to confess that I am quite limited in my understanding of that kind of science, it certainly increases...
Well, that makes two of us.
Well, it increases my belief. And that's
I've got it down.
Yeah, okay. So at least somebody here knows what it... You know, I would point to...
You can't possibly say that you derive your faith from it, can you? Because Christianity comes from a time when people thought the sky was a bowl.
No.
And they had no idea that the Earth was round or revolved around the sun instead of the sun around it. Indeed, Christianity threatened with torture and death anyone who tried to investigate the subjects you've just been presenting.
Yes, and not one of the happy chapters in our history. I mean, let me point to another book that I've found to be quite helpful. It's by Owen Gingerich. Owen Gingerich was an astrophysicist at Harvard. He actually taught there when I was a student there, though I didn't take a class from him. We would eat lunch in the same place. He wrote a book called God's Universe. It's Harvard University Press. It's a fairly small book, talking about how he, as an astrophysicist, is also a man of faith, a Christian, and how that makes sense. And he says a couple things you can find interesting. One is that when he looks at the utter unlikelihood of human existence, that does increase his faith that there is some sort of a God behind all of this. But also, and this is what I think interesting in terms of Christopher Hitchens' recent comment, he chides himself from thinking that we're the whole purpose, that as human beings are the whole purpose of it. He says, as a Christian who needs to be humble before God, and as a scientist, there may well be other life in other place. To me, it's instructive because it shows how a great man of science, whose scientific understanding vastly exceeds my own, actually allows him to be more convinced in his religious faith and less, and to do it in a very rational and sane and open to science way that I find very appealing. I think one of the things that I would want to say myself is that the extent to which, in the history of the relationship between religion and science, Christianity has often opposed scientific inquiry. Much of that I find very grievous, and would agree with Christopher Hitchens that was a sorry thing.
You see, suppose that you could infer a creator who was interested. Suppose you could infer a creator or an intelligence from these calculations, which is a hypothesis that so far, when tested, has proved to be inadequate. But suppose, let me grant it to you. All your work is still ahead of you. It suggests in the smallest degree that he's interested in what happens to you or me.
I think that's correct. Then you would have to look for evidences of his plan revealed to humankind.
Yes, and I just think our cranial capacity isn't up to that.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you on that. That
so
gets
why
us to a
claim to
place.
know things you can't possibly know? That's what I keep asking you. I will keep asking you. Why do you impose this extraordinary burden on yourself?
Because you found those evidences, I would say.
Well, we should publicize them better. They
haven't penetrated yet.
Yes. I would say that what you're saying is, why hang on to these things that are hard to believe and defend? And my answer is that I have to be intellectually honest and try to be faithful as a thinker, that I can't simply lop off of my faith those things that I find inconvenient or difficult to understand. That it's a matter of, and you say, well, then why hold on to the faith in the first place? Because the faith in the first place, to me, makes ultimately the most sense of all things, and because of something that I realize that you would have a hard time agreeing with, but what I would also say is my experience of God. I realize you don't think I've had an experience of God, but
No, I think you have. I wouldn't dream
really?
of doubting that you think you have. But I don't think you could make it real to anybody else.
Well, all I can say is, as a pastor,
I don't think the people who report seeing UFOs and so on are lying. I think they did. I think they really do think they saw them. I just do not think we're being visited by such craft.
My experience, and again, gets to my particular experience as a pastor, is that it's not an easy thing at all to help somebody else to experience God as reality, but that if I am as faithful to the truth as I can be, if I seek to live it out as faithfully as I can, that actually that can help people come to experience God in a genuine way as well. If I didn't believe that, I sure as heck wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
And Christopher Hitchens, you believe people are deluding themselves when they believe they have experienced God?
Well, actually, I was a friend of a bishop of the Church of England, a very decent and gentle man called Hugh Montefiore. Had converted from Judaism to become a Christian, became a very senior figure in the Anglican Church because of a personal visit that he had from Jesus Christ when he was one of the few Jews at a Protestant boarding school. And he wrote a book also saying that the conditions for life on this planet seem to be so extraordinary, the knife-edge balance on which we live, that it testifies to the divine. And I can't say that old Bishop Hugh was lying when he said he'd had a personal visit from Jesus. It did change his life. He acted for the rest of his life as if it had happened.
On that point, we will return, because that's very interesting. Is that in the book? Christopher, it's not in the book, is it?
What?
You didn't include that in the book, did you?
No, I probably should have done.
Yes.
It's a very interesting book that he wrote, but he's worth Googling.
We'll be right back on The Hugh Hewitt Show.